Just start off with some opening comments. Congratulations to Trevon. In his contract, much deserved. After going through adversity last year, super excited for him. We named captains on defense, so Osa and Dono are our captains. Those guys are a hard-working group of pair, and I really think that those guys are, leading in the right way. And we have a lot of other leaders on defense, but excited about for Osa and Dono. Kenny Clark, adding him in the trade, super excited about that. He's a real stout in the run game, and obviously, really good pass rusher as well inside. Gives you some push in there to solidify our inside there. We really don't have a comment about Diggs right now in terms of his play time and all that. We're still working through all those things, with him, but he's looked good so far. We'll see where that is. And then, congratulations also to Micah. He had the trade, and he's now on a different squad, and we wish him the best. So that's where it is, and excited about the week for Philly. Know these guys really well. Work with the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. Very good football mind, and obviously Nick Sirianni. We were coordinators together there in Indianapolis, but good guys, really good coaches, and excited to go against them. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. How do you replace Parsons' production?
Yeah, it's we're going to focus on us and focus on how we do that. Obviously, a really good player, and we have a lot of good rushers, in that room, in the D-line room, and certainly we'll generate it with that and other things too.
What does Clark bring to your team?
First of all, he's a true pro. He's a worker, and he's been a leader. He's been a leader over there in Green Bay, and he's going to be a leader here too, and you can see that right away. Knows ball. Really intelligent, and excited to work with him. He works great on the practice field, and he's a tremendous guy.
I'm Todd Archer with ESPN. With Micah, because he wasn't on the practice field and doing stuff, did that allow you to obviously get more reps with the guys that you have had? And is there anything that you had in the system for Micah that you now can push on to other guys?
Yeah, of course we're going to try to scheme that, but we never really had a chance to during the camp. But again, we're going to work with the guys, that we have. And to answer your other question, we didn't have time on task, and that was a good thing for the other guys. They got a chance to work and work their four-man rush and then work our blitz package, and so the guys are doing a nice job.
John Machota with The Athletic. Your time in Chicago, obviously going against a guy like Kenny Clark. What stood out to you then? Yeah,
just the energy and passion that he plays with. We got a chance to watch a lot of crossover games, so I got a chance to evaluate their personnel as I was doing that. And just what I said before, just a true pro.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Obviously, you want to get home with 4 if possible, but you're trying to figure out, do I have to send more than that? In terms of trying to figure that out going into week 1, how much do you kind of project that, and how much is that reading on the fly once you get into actual gameplay?
Yeah, I think it depends on the scheme you're playing. It really does. If it's, a certain scheme that you can predict certain things, you want to be able to send certain players, to get home. And that's every week, so that's where we are.
And then Reddy Stewart's a guy that obviously you brought in, you had familiarity with. You've been trying to figure out, the nickel all offseason long. It's been kind of a thing. How does he kind of play into it, and how much does his familiarity with you kind of play into giving him a earlier run, I guess?
Yeah, that's why we wanted to get him. First of all, because he knows the scheme, and he's a kind of plug and play right away, as a backup or rotational player. We're still figuring that out, but we understand that he knows the scheme and he knows how we play. And he plays with great passion, energy, and he has a really good knack for taking the ball away.
Babe?
Babe Loffmer, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Network.
Hey, Babe, how you doing?
I'm
good?
Great.
All right.
Good. As this whole Micah saga was unfolded, at what point did you have to say, okay, we may not have him, let's figure out what we're going to do? Because he's, many times, obviously, guy gets hurt, you just plug in the next guy. He's so unique that, and what other teams and how they were going to approach him, that it's not the same. So at what point did you flip the switch?
I'm not going to get into timelines with that, but really it was forced upon us, because of the whole talks back and forth with the contract. He was unavailable. and all those things. So it's important that, we went forward with the guys that we had, with Tay and, and Sam and all the guys that we have in there. And they did a great job. They worked their butts off in training camp.
And obviously, guys get hurt, you lose a guy, you go on. And you're in Chicago, obviously, with the situation where, I don't know if he was your best defensive player. I'll let you talk about that. But Roquan Smith gets traded during the season, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, those are the situations that the clubs make, for the best interest of that club, and that's the same situation here. And then you just really have to focus on who you're coaching on the field.
Patrick?
Hey, Coach. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Circling back to Kenny Clark, he's been practicing with Green Bay prior to the trade. He's fully healthy, and in his words, he could play 20, 30, 50 plays for you guys on Thursday if need be. What's the expectation as far as managing his ramp up, and could he be fully unleashed against the Eagles on Thursday?
Yeah, first of all, he's very smart. It's for him to pick up scheme, our scheme, very similar schemes, and I don't think it'll be a problem. We're going to evaluate that as we go through the week with each guy in terms of rep count and all those things, and we'll decide that on Friday or the what we call Friday. Yeah.
Fair. Quick follow-up for that. What does the addition of Kenny Clark do for a guy like Mozzie Smith, who's still kind of working his way through the weeds?
Yeah, I think it's good for the whole room, because we added a veteran presence in there. We already had a big veteran presence in there with Solly and those types of guys, and Tay. And I think it's important that Osa, it's important that he just adds to that. He really does.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Matt, how do Osa and Kenny complement each other? I know you're still kind of in the early processes and being together, but what do you feel like they can do when they're on the field next to each other?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I really am. Because they both can play on first, and second down, but also play on the rush downs. So you really get a good push in the middle there, and it's going to be exciting to watch those guys go.
Kelly. How do you tell your guys, your pass rushers, don't try to do too much because we don't have Micah, and just do what you normally do? Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I would say that just, focus on your technique and focus on the plan. And that's what the guys are doing. We're putting our third down game plan in right now, and the guys will focus on that. Again, focusing on first and second down as well. And we got to be where our feet are, and that's what those guys are going to do.
Todd.
Run defense obviously has been a big question around here for a while, but do you wish the first game wasn't against Saquon?
Yeah, what an outstanding player, and the explosive runs, historic, last year with him, and it's going to be important that everybody plays well in the run game, not just the front seven. The secondary has to do a great job of keeping the cup, and he's an explosive athlete and a generational guy.
That background you mentioned with the OC and with Sirianni, do you go back and think of your time together? Like, okay, when he was doing this, we were doing that in practice. Do you play those games, or is that so long ago it doesn't factor in anymore?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It's so long ago that the schemes have changed. We've adjusted, they've adjusted, and you got to go with what you see on tape and what you think their next move is going to be.
Patrick. Back to Kenny and Osa, that combination. From a coaching standpoint, how beneficial is it knowing that, obviously Kenny's being dropped in less than a week before week one, but he has a long-standing personal relationship with Osa, UCLA days, having played with his brother Ola. How beneficial is that as far as chemistry ramping up quickly? Yeah,
the chemistry's there. Like I said, he's a great person and a great pro, and the guys respect him just from his play alone, and then when they get to meet him, respect him even more. And you guys see that too.
Clarence.
Just from a scheme standpoint, I'm sorry I'm late, but Kenny, and I know he'll be better later than he will be week one, just from comfortability in the scheme, but just talk about how comfortable he can be in the scheme in less than a week.
I referred to it earlier. I would say just because of the scheme is very similar, from what he's coming from. I think it won't be an issue at all.
Brad.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio 105.3 The Fan.
Way back in the back, Brad.
Way back in the back, so I can monitor you on my magic little recording device. Should Diggs not be ready to play, do you have a decision to make between Stewart and Childress for this game? And if you do, One of them has not been around here but knows your system. One of them doesn't as well but has been around these guys. How do you weigh those factors?
Yeah, you're not going to like the answer because we're just working through that right now. We really are. So we're going to figure that out, and we'll decide on here in the next couple of days.
Babe Lovemer, you're not going to like this question, Bruce, but
I can answer how I want. Yeah.
you look at the Super Bowl, Kansas City shut down Saquon, did the best job on him all year. They gave up, obviously, big plays in the passing game.
Yeah.
So when you have a team, the tight end is obviously a factor as well in this deal. As a coordinator and game planning against a team that you throw it outside, throw to the tight end, obviously run it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing a good offense, that they can stress you, in the run game, horizontally and vertically in the pass game. So we got to do a great job of, 11 guys being on the same page, 11 guys doing their job, and playing with the right tempo and the right attitude. And that's what we're focused on.
I know coaches always talk about making a team one-dimensional. Which dimension do you want to take away?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pick your moments. You pick your moments, and you do a good job with your scheme, and it really comes down to execution.
Scott, one more. Yep. Sorry. You were obviously in another division, so these guys were seeing the tush push twice a year. So, how much can you prepare for that? How do you think about those? How do you defend that in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, you can see various teams do different things to it, and some teams were successful, and it's all about it's an attitude type of thing, and you got to do a great job of executing the way we want to execute on that play, and we'll see if we got a good plan.
Is it hard to replicate that in practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not something you're going to see or have the guys do a bunch, full speed, but we definitely will rep it and work it and be ready for it.
Really, every week, ever since I've been here, I think that's the beauty of having those veteran guys, especially when you're training the offseason or training camp. I mean, I think their role never stops, whether it's the first game, offseason, training camp, and that's why those guys have been so good.
Clarence Hill, DLS Cowboys. Going to Chicago, is it better to go now than in December? I don't know if the wind is any.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
God dang, I'm thinking about
Same.
that.
Yes.
My bad. I was trying to do a flight for Chicago. Anyway,
That's week 3. And it might be better than
the next
than
road
also,
game.
yeah.
The next road game. I was thinking about the road game.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. Looking at your receivers, can you talk about Tolbert and their importance of special teams?
Yeah, I think when your roster gets low for you go to 48 after being at 90, those guys all play roles. Like everyone's got to have some type of role, whether it's a backup at 2 or 3 spots or you're on 1 or 2 phases, backing up another. We always got to use the guys that are up, especially even on field goal with having the O linemen. They got to be able to go a couple different places, and sometimes you can use D linemen and tight ends there too. But everyone's got to have some type of role. Obviously, some guys won't be out there, but yeah, that's part of putting those pieces together. And then when you get injuries through the year, that can change. You got to cross-train guys.
Is that what makes him valuable, though, as a receiver? Because he can do those things, he can go short.
I think he's just trusted by everybody in the building. I think offense and special teams, we all trust him and know that he's a competitor and he's going to help us win games.
Nick Todd Archer with ESPN. With Aubrey being named a captain, obviously he's very good at what he does, but what added responsibility does a captain have? Being a captain have for him?
I don't know if there's added responsibility. I think the cool thing about being voted a captain is because it's your peers. So I think that's always a cool thing, and having that respect from all the guys is awesome.
Have you been around teams that have had kickers as the captain for special teams?
I'm not sure, maybe, but it doesn't happen quite as often. So it's pretty cool the respect he's got,
And then first week of a season, you have a lot of moving parts to get to know different guys and is the first week kind of, or first couple weeks maybe a chaos thing for a special teams coach because there's so much unknown coming into a year?
I don't know if it's chaos. I think everyone deals with the same thing because you don't know exactly where everyone's going to line up on the other side of the field too. So you've been kind of moving guys around, trying to cross-train them at different spots to where they can fit in. But you've been preparing for that. I don't think it's necessarily chaos. I think it's like fun learning, through a game. There's some adjustments you got to make. Okay, this guy's lining up here. We got to do this, or I enjoy that part of it.
John Machota with The Athletic. I know from afar you obviously know Cavante Turpin is and what you're getting into with this job, but since you've been around him now, what has stood out most to you?
Stood out the most is how much energy like he brings every day. Like, you know what he is on tape, but you don't necessarily know the guy, and that to me has been the coolest part. I mean, he's involved in everything. He's always having fun. He's always, just spreading good energy at all times. It just seems like every day is a joy to the guy, and that's the part to me that stood out the most. He's extremely competitive in pretty much everything we do, but that's not surprising because of how he plays. You would expect that, pretty much most guys.
Joe White, Dallas Morning News. When you have a returner like Turpin and the touchback rule is now at the 35, I guess how tough a position are you guys putting opposing kickoff teams in right now?
We'll find out. I think we will. It's a good question. I think the whole league, I think we all think everyone's going to return more balls and try and kick them that way just because of numbers and everyone, analytics. I mean, the analytics have been around forever. You always kind of have numbers for every situation. So the numbers say that you try and make them return it, but it also depends on the situation. Like, who's the returner, the people they have, who's blocking for them, who do we have covering? You ask yourself, and then what's the score of the game? What are the conditions of the wind? So I think there's so much that goes into it, but I think we will see more returns. We'll see what happens.
And in terms of solidifying what maybe your maximum line is for Brendan Aubrey, obviously that can change given week, given on conditions and stuff like that. Yeah. How do you plan to go about pursuing that kind of extent, and does it come down even game day when you're out there walking around?
It definitely, you confirm it on game day. You have an idea. Brandon's great. He doesn't overthink anything. Try to involve him on some of the conversations, but he's such a stud. He'll just all right, whatever you want. There's not a whole lot that he will turn down. I think you just got to do right by him, and I try to talk to him and watch him in pregame based on the wind in these outdoor games.
Dave.
Babe Laufenberg, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio Network. Nick, what has your experience been? You're going to have guys, they're going to have the same, all 32 teams are going to have it, but you'll have guys that either maybe have never played special teams or haven't done it in a long time. So what has your experience been on that week one?
The week one, I think you'll learn a lot. I think some guys come off the field like, oh, damn, okay, this is what it felt like. Or some might feel, oh, that was a little bit quicker than the preseason might have been the first time they got those reps. And there's different schemes, and everything's a lot simpler in every phase, I think, of offense, defense, and special teams. And sometimes you just, hey, this makes sense to me, and I'm just playing football. And that's what I want. We want to encourage guys to cut it loose, play fast, don't overthink anything, and be simple and just be a football player and don't overthink it.
Patrick.
Hey, Coach. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. A week ago, give or take, Shotty said that one of the determining factors between Jalen Brooks and Ryan Flanoy on the active 53 initially was the fact that Flanoy plays special teams so well. Obviously, you guys had to play the numbers game a little bit, but what does Flanoy bring to you on the special teams front, and how pleased are you to have him back on the practice squad?
Well, I say both of them do. I mean, they both contributed a lot. I just think, it was really close with those guys. Both of them are great special teams players. I'm not saying, anything bad or good. Flo just really stepped up a lot. He improved a lot. He got really, really good, and he got a lot better at it. And we'll see, We'll see, because Brooks has done a whole lot too, and he's had a lot of success on special teams. So those guys both, for me, have high value on special teams.
Tommy Yarsh, DallasCowboys.com. In the preseason, it seemed like when the kickoffs went deep and maybe the ball's coming between the 2-yard line and the goal line, some of the younger guys don't know, okay, do I field this? Do I let it go? What's your coaching point there when it's kind of in that area and you don't really know if you just let it go or not?
That was good learning for Blue. You're talking about in the last game, he had a couple of those. Well, in those, it was if it's close, you return it. You're not going to catch it and look down where my feet are at that point. That's why you got to have an idea where you are in the field. And I think those were just good learning experience for him. He hasn't, again, another rookie that hasn't had a whole lot of special teams experience. Those are valuable reps.
Just they don't try to do too much. They're very fundamental. There's a couple of things that you can tell that he's very particular about, especially as it pertains to stopping the run. I mean, you can tell he wants to set edges, and he's just got a couple of standards that of the way that they play that have kind of upheld everywhere he's been.
You weren't here last year. How much did you look at the 2 games that they played against them last year and say, oh, maybe you just erase what happened there, or do you really want to look at those 2 games?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I want to look at every piece of film that they had, and they certainly did a good job in all phases last year, not just in those 2 games, but in every game that they played.
Clarence Hill, DLLS Cowboys. Dak hasn't played in the preseason in a long time. Is there a challenge you as a coordinator getting the guy, getting your first team offense ready to go without having preseason work? And what are your expectations for this week?
That's a really good question, because I go back and forth on it. And I think that ultimately, especially with experienced players, you just they need to play enough football in the preseason, whether it's in a game or it's in training camp, and a little bit like a fighter's camp in mixed martial arts or boxing, is those guys need to get calloused up, especially the guys that are going to get hit. I was very concerned last year because we didn't play, I don't think, not one starter in the preseason in Arizona, and I was all stressed out and worried about it, and then I felt like the first quarter of the first game we were hitting on all cylinders. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think some of it has to do with how much your guys have played and how many banked game reps and starts and all that they have. So it probably is a case-by-case thing. I think that our guys will be ready to go.
Is there game plan-wise, what do you do to try to get them comfortable, get them going, get them in a rhythm early so obviously not calloused up, but you want them to be comfortable early?
Yeah, I mean, I always think anytime you're in an environment like it's going to be on Thursday, or you're playing your first kind of live reps of the season or whatever, you try to do things that you do good and things that they're comfortable with. So whether that's something that we did well during training camp, or that's something that we've done well in the past, whatever it is, I think I don't want to speak for every coach on the planet, but I think that that's how most people feel is, what do we do good? How do we go out and do that early? And then I think you can increase the degree of difficulty thereafter.
Todd Archer of the ESPN, is it hard to know what you do good at this point if there's not been that preseason work and things?
Yeah, sure. I think especially trying to find your identity specifically in the run game, I've always felt like you think and then week 4 you feel a little bit differently, and then sometimes week 12 or week 14 you feel a little bit differently. But I do think that it is relatively simple to watch your guys and see what they like, and see some of the blocks that your guys, not necessarily just on the offensive line. Sometimes it's at receiver. Sometimes you have a guy in the backfield that runs a certain scheme really, really well. I think those things are easy to see. Sometimes you go through a patch of the season where you're facing, like a San Francisco style attack front, and certain schemes are not going to be good, and you're going to make your hay on other ones. So I think you got to have the ability to be multiple that way, and you have to be good at more than one thing.
What excites you most about Javonte Williams?
I think physicality. Yeah, he's a tough player, and he embraces contact.
Jim Schroeder with The Athletic. You go back to when you guys made the move for George Pickens till now. How do you think he helps you the most?
I mean, he keeps me laughing all the time. That's an important piece for me. I think that, I think I said this maybe during training camp one time, but just the dynamic of having someone on the other side of CD that you're really kind of having to split the field and you're not able to lean just one direction is probably the simplest answer, but the starting point.
And then in terms of the in-game, people talk about getting rid of less and less preseason games, but for you guys being a new staff, how much has that helped out in terms of being on the same page or in-game communication for what you guys will have to do, hitting the ground running really on a Thursday night?
Yeah, we worked really hard in the preseason, in those games of trying to make it feel as game-like as possible. And, we worked pretty hard during the week, those weeks of trying to make it feel as game-like as possible. We got to, we need the game reps just like the players do. And so you can simulate all you want, but when they put the ball down on Thursday night, it's going to feel a little bit different, and we got to make sure that we're making the right decisions just like the players do.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Klayton, how good of an early test is facing the Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter for Tyler Booker?
Oh, I think it's going to be awesome for him. Yeah, I mean, I think that he's, you guys know how I feel about Tyler Booker. I think the world of him. I know that we'll look back probably in 10 or 11 weeks and go, wow, look how much he's grown. But I feel I'm excited for him because the type of competitor that he is. I'm excited for him to go out week one and, like I said earlier, put the ball down, let's freaking play. Nothing that's happened before the moment that we kick off really matters.
Joe White, Dallas Morning News. You talked about Javonte Williams a little bit. He was your guys' first free agent signing. What in the kind of lead up to free agency kind of made you guys say, hey, we want that guy?
I think, like when you guys ask what is it that I like about him, I mean, you like because you like what he's as advertised. You hear things about guys when you're signing them in free agency. Oh, this guy's a true pro, or this is a high character guy, or this guy really embraces the work of being a professional football player. And then it's always nice when you get those guys and they're in the building and you go, yeah, well, that was true. So that's really one of the biggest things about Javonte is he's an adult. And he takes care of business, and he embraces all different parts of his game, whether it be physical, mental, pass protection, run game. I'm very excited to see him play.
Dak says he calls him valedictorian tech, I guess because he was a valedictorian at some point. How does that help him in terms of, that intelligence, and how does it help him actually on the field?
I'm going to have to ask him about the whole valedictorian thing. He's probably the prom king too, right? I didn't know that he was like an incredible student or anything like that. He's certainly an incredible student of the game, because sometimes you see these guys that are just really, really, really smart, and you find out maybe they weren't great students or whatever. He's one of those dudes that he's on top of it. He sees the details, he executes the details. He's able to absorb pretty much everything that you can give him within an install. It's easy for him. He's taking notes because that's the type of guy that he is, but he picks stuff up fast.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Clayton, what's that chess match like for you guys through Dak when there's an all-pro inside linebacker and Zach Bond on the other side of the line of scrimmage like the Eagles have?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to see that guy is noticing everything that happens. He's picking up on body language. He's trying to probably memorize what your code words are at the line of scrimmage. He's reading stances. That guy's he's an outstanding football player. And again, that's part of the game within the game when you're really talking about all of these guys in their own right to play in this league are elite, and then all of a sudden you come across some of those like 1% and 2% guys, and you're really wowed by what they do when you watch them on tape. It's fun to see.
Hey, Klayton, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. As it goes for Tyler Booker, first round pick, first NFL game for the Cowboys against the Eagles in Philadelphia. What's your biggest talking point to him as far as making sure that he manages any anxiety that he might have going into Lincoln Financial?
Be you, man. That's him. And I think that is, to be honest with you, like I know he's going to be excited and all that, but the type of person that he is and the type of personality that he is and the type of competitor that he is, I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it because I know what he's going to look like before that game, and I know how he's going to respond. He's a guy that manages himself very well.
Keep it to the offensive line. Tyler Guyton said that there's a shot of him playing on Thursday against the Eagles. Where is he at in his progress for that?
I'm not 100% sure within like the medical side of it. I've been told that they're working on it, and they'll kind of see where he's at by the end of the week. So it's a little bit of one of those situations where I got to kind of wait and see exactly what happens, which can be tough.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. Having been in the inside with Dak for a few months now and kind of seeing how he operates, what's your sense of his motivation to take this franchise kind of where it's wanted to go for a while?
Yeah, I mean, as high as anybody that you could imagine. I mean, the guy he's not just an unbelievable leader and an unbelievable worker, but he's also, I always think of great players as being like almost the CEO of the corporation, is they're in the locker room and they're one of the players, but they also have, a little bit different piece that's on their plate because he is a great leader. He does everything that he's asked to do. He does it at an extremely high level, and he's also kind of the ringleader in the locker room of being one of the guys. And so that's a totally different and unique experience, in my opinion, than it is for maybe a first-year guy or a guy that's kind of been floating around and on a first contract or whatever. So I absolutely admire the guy. I love being around him every day, and I'm very excited to go on this journey with him.
Babe Loffenberg, 105.3 of the Fan, Cowboys Radio Network. So Klayton, we've asked about the other two Tylers. Matter of fact, how do you keep the three of them?
Yeah.
How do you address them?
I was saying it earlier, we got the Tyler Power rankings in there, man. You don't have good practice, you go to the freaking bottom.
So Tyler Smith, obviously you'd looked at him before you met him and got him on the field and all that stuff. What is your impression of him now compared to what you saw kind of looking on film?
As advertised. It was a unique situation with him because you had heard all these good things, and there's always a few guys in the draft that way, in my opinion, especially on the offensive line, where there's just like rumblings around, like, hey, that dude's a slam dunk, But I had actually left the interview room because one of my daughters called when we were doing interviews at the Combine, and so I was sitting outside the room, and they started the defensive interview, so I had to sit there for about 15 minutes, and then this kid comes up and sits next to me, and there's about 11 minutes left, and I started talking to him and realized it was Tyler Booker. So I got a couple extra minutes just chatting with him before we even went into the room, and probably spent the first 5 minutes like a dummy, not knowing who he was, and just figuring he's just a guy, one of the players just kind of hanging out. So that was a cool and unique experience for me. He kind of told me his whole life story and talking about going to IMG Academy and kind of being sent to at an early age being diagnosed as one of these dudes like, hey, this guy's special. He can handle, some really high level schooling, and, he's not going to be just standing holding his mommy's hand when he's 12. He's going to be going to special junior high and all that other stuff. So I've had a unique experience with him from the beginning that way, getting to know him. And it was pretty special in the draft process, looking back on some of that stuff going, man, I'd been pretty happy at that moment knowing that we drafted him.
We'll wrap it up with Todd.
Has Nate Thomas calmed any fears that you might have as a former 7th round pick, a guy that's not played in a game that he might actually have to go?
Yeah, I mean, you never. I think I said this maybe a few weeks ago. You're never excited about having injuries. But there are a few players on the roster that when somebody's going to miss some time, in the back of your mind, you're going, I'm excited to watch that guy. He's one of those guys for me. Whenever it is that he gets his opportunity, I feel pretty good about what he's going to do, from a talent perspective and from a competitive perspective.